Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Hopefully, people listening to our show have not had heart attacks. But I know from doing this for so many years, many of you have had them. And we don't want you to have any more of them. And so I was so excited to get this book, which is called Exercises for Cardiac Recovery. And it's, fortunately, it's by 3 authors. And the one author we have on our calling in from New Jersey is Keith Burns. And the other authors, and so let's see, let me just get this together. So it's William Smith and Christopher, what is that? Volgrab. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So how did this come about, both of you writing this? Are you physical therapists, or are you doctors, or what?
We are, actually, all 3 of us are exercise physiologists, and we had worked together on another project as well, a book called Exercise for Perfect Posture, and then we decided that a cardiac health book was also needed. So we just basically collaborated, and we came up with what we thought would be something a little bit different than what's out there right now, and maybe a little bit more progressive as well. And then we just spent the next year and a half brainstorming, working on it, shooting back and forth different copies of research, and then we decided to let's go ahead and do this, and we put the book together.
And I gather that you all don't live in the same community.
We're fairly close. Chris and myself used to work together at the Princeton Longevity Center, and actually Will Smith worked across the street. He was their director of fitness and education at a health club that was right across the street from us, which is basically how we all know each other.
Well, you know that there were some questions that when I started thinking about your coming on the radio show. Yes. And I know from being a gerontologist that, and I've spoken to, and I didn't know who this group was, but I'm sure you do. They're called the Zipper Club. You know what the Zipper Club is?
I'm somewhat familiar, yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought, my goodness, zippers, what is this? Is this going to be sexual? I had no idea. So I went there, and of course the zipper is because they look, years ago anyway, they had the zipper from their neck down, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And that's when we started talking about things, and I said, what's your greatest worry? And they were fearful of having sex. And you probably hear this a lot because It's, and so I didn't quite know what to say about that. I had to do some research, and I said that, as long as it's not tantric or something really wild, it's probably good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Within reason, if their heart is ready for it, absolutely.
And so what you had to do, though, for the cardiac, I guess you had to talk to probably cardiologists and cardiovascular surgeons and things to be able to figure out what would be the safest exercises for them to have.
Absolutely. Definitely. I would agree with that.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about that. When you decided to do this, how did you begin?
So we sat down, we looked at the American College of Sports Medicine guidelines, and our experience has been that having spent time at the Princeton Longevity Center working with cardiologists there, we didn't find that there was really that many roadblocks to getting people back to health, and there wasn't that many roadblocks to really even beginning people to start exercising. So we sat down, we looked at the guidelines, and we said, okay, where can we start, bottom level? If someone's, basically just coming off of some sort of cardiac event and they're cleared for exercise, where do we want to start them? And what's important? So we looked at the guidelines. We said, okay, we know that people often do the aerobic exercise, the cardiovascular exercise, and that's a great start. But then we said, okay, what's missing from the traditional cardiac rehab program? And what we really thought was the missing piece was the resistance training or strength training aspect. We looked through all the research and said, okay, what is the benefit to the heart if someone's doing resistance training? And I would say that the overarching benefit was that everything else in the body functions better when the person's stronger. So if we could increase their overall functional capacity, get their muscles stronger, better endurance, it actually takes away workload from the heart during normal everyday activity. So that was sort of the grounding thing that we looked at. And then we tried to bring in some of the other things that were a little bit more psychological, emotional type health as well.
That all sounds so smart. And so let's really take this carefully. So somebody has they have a heart attack, and then they're recovering. How soon after they recover can they start exercising?
You know, that's a great question, because I think traditionally there was a little bit of a waiting period until you could go through the cardiac rehab process. But we know now with the way healthcare is, they don't really keep people hospitalized very long, and they actually want people up and moving very quickly. So it could be anywhere from a few days up to a few weeks, but it's usually not that long, and it's highly dependent on the person's individual cardiac event, right? So if someone has a major surgery, obviously the process is going to take a little bit longer. But if someone goes in and potentially has a blockage cleared, potentially has a stent put in, that process is quickened quite a bit. So it could be, within a week or so, they actually get the person moving. And I think one of the big things we need to look at is the fact that, okay, does a person need structure exercise, or do they need more just general physical activity? Because I don't know that many doctors that would ever tell a patient not to walk. So if we get the person even just walking at low levels, that's probably a really good thing.
Okay, and I'm thinking through this as this person now has just come out of having a heart attack, and they're very nervous, and you're telling them we're going to get something structured for you. And now, before I go too much further, though, I am absolutely fascinated by the title of Get Fit platform. What is that?
So the Get Fit platform is it's a website. It's actually by Hatherley Publishing, and it's a great resource. It has everything on there, from different types of workouts, different books. There's blogs that go up there. So really just general advice for health, to get people fit and moving. And it could be anything from general population all the way through active older adults. It could be cardiac rehab. But they have so many great resources on there. They have an exercise database. They have recipes. So it's really just geared towards increasing someone's overall physical health and well-being.
Sounds so smart. So the three of you are... So during the day, what are you doing when you're not... You're probably writing another book, but what are you doing now? Are you working with people who've had heart attacks, or just generally speaking with people who want good fitness?
Yeah, so generally most of the clients that I see are in generally good health at this point. I've transitioned from working at the Princeton Longevity Center to a faculty position. So, my job now really is teaching the next generation of exercise science professionals. So going through my 25 years of experience and trying to provide them with some really good content, to learn what they need to do to move forward with their own education and their own careers. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. But I do also have some clients as well, and most of them are in fairly good health.
And do you have any clients from afar, or are they all where you see them eyeball to eyeball? Can you do this over the phone?
Right now, most of my clients are eyeball to eyeball, as you would say. But yeah, absolutely. We do have, I have done in the past, I've done some consulting via email, phone, and there's some really great digital platforms we could use, similar to like the Get Fit Now type platform, for people to, have a structured exercise and be able to track that.
So I want to go back in years. I don't know, you said you've been doing this a while, so I have to assume you're in your 40s?
Yes.
Okay. So when you were in your teens, did you exercise?
I did. I was a track and field athlete. So the physical aspect comes fairly natural. And I think, I was involved in sports from a very young age, all the way, I would say 7 or 8, from little league all the way through high school and then into college.
So tell me about your parents.
So both my parents are still here, alive, which is fantastic. They They are not very physically active. I have to
I
admit,
was wondering what you got.
I have to admit that.
Oh, my goodness.
So they don't like to listen to me for advice.
Oh, that's not good. So here they have, they're so lucky to have you, and they don't get it yet, right?
They don't get it yet. And I think they come from a different generation that they're at this point in life, they're probably not going to get it.
And yet I live in a condominium here in South Florida, and sometimes I can't even get into the gym. And a lot of these people are in their 60s, 70s, 80s. They are in there trucking along.
Yeah, I think, I think the goal is really to get people, educated and hooked on being physically active when they're younger. And I think if we do a better job at doing that, we see better outcomes later on in life. I think people that are physically active when they're young generally stay physically active. I think they enjoy it. They find something that they like, and they usually continue. And again, it doesn't have to be structured exercise. It could be anything from gardening, landscaping. If people like to go out and go dancing, it could be things like that. So it doesn't always have to be just going to the gym. And I think that's what's one of the pitfalls within our industry right now.
Yeah, I think you're so right. But it sounds like your book, if we could just get people to buy your book, you don't have to have had a cardiac.
No.
You don't have to have had anything wrong with your heart, but this is a good book to buy. So I just want to tell everybody, my guest is Keith Burns. He's co-author of Exercises for Cardiac Recovery. And people can buy your book by, let me just see, do you have a website that they would go to? They can go to Amazon. They can go to Amazon.com.
Yep.
Okay, and how much does it cost?
I think on Amazon right now it's around $12.
Oh, what a bargain. Oh, my goodness, that's right. And people don't know what to buy. You should buy a book for somebody. I always think books are the best. You can't go wrong. They're not going to take it back. And something like this, I have so many friends who have had, whether stents or they've had something, high blood pressure, they have something. And this would be a fabulous book for them. But the one thing I just want to deviate for 1 second, you mentioned your other book. That's something I would be very interested in. It's, what is it, for posture?
Yeah, it's by the same publisher. It's called Exercises for Perfect Posture. And it's also available on Amazon as well.
Okay, so give me some hints on that.
So that one, we looked at basically how people move and some of the postures that we're in on a daily basis. So basically sitting at a computer, which is pretty much
deadly.
a great great portion of, and then how do we actually increase our overall awareness and posture once they're out of those positions? So it's everything's geared towards creating better posture, better breathing patterns, and then overall functionality.
I'm very interested in that book personally. I did buy a sit-stand desk years ago because I knew I needed to have something like that. And of course, I tend to sometimes not stand, but I push. You hit a button, it goes down, and I sit.
Yep.
But the sit-stand now, it's really hit the market. People realize they have to do that.
Absolutely.
But it's more than that, I'm sure, because I modeled when I was much younger, and I remember how straight I was. But as I'm aging, I realize it's not the same, and I don't know what's happening. And if I bought your book and I did some of those exercises, could I get back again?
I believe so. Yeah, absolutely. The body's essentially, if we want to think of it, it's very moldable, very plastic. So the positions we're in the most, the body wants to stay in those positions. So sitting at a desk with our, shoulders rounded, forward head.
Yeah.
The body gets really comfortable at staying there. So when we try to stand up, we try to stand up with a good posture. It's very difficult to get there. So the book actually provides a lot of different strategies for someone to correct any imbalances that may exist.
Well, you should. Did you write this with the two other authors?
Yep, absolutely.
So you're a real little team there.
We are. It works out great.
Yeah, that makes me very happy that I got to meet you. Well, I have some other things I'd like to talk to you about after when we're off the air. But
absolutely,
I just want to say that I haven't seen a book like this before, and I deal with a lot of cardiologists, cardiovascular surgeons, electrophysiologists, and so this is a book that I probably should buy and give some of them because I have not seen this before it came, over on the on email to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me about a couple of the ages of some of your successful, I guess you call them clients, not patients.
Yeah, so I mean, right now, most of my clients now are, fairly young. I would say they're in their upper 40s, early 50s. But when I think back to some of the more high-risk patients that I worked with over at the Princeton Longevity Center, they were often in their 60s, 70s. I've even seen a few patients in their 80s, and we've seen great success with them over the course of different years. So basically, at that center, people would come in for their yearly physical, and we would take them through an ECG-driven stress test. We do a heart scan, take a look at their heart. I mean, all kinds of different things, percent body composition, so body fat, bone density. And then based on off the data that we reviewed, we would write an exercise prescription to modify or correct anything that could be corrected with exercise. And we would see some really good success, particularly in the older population. We would see people actually increase in their lean body mass, so their muscle mass. Their metabolic rate increases. They decrease their body fat. We've seen people actually increase bone density. So there's really no point in time that you can't start.
That's really amazing. We usually have a book of the month in our magazine. Have you seen our magazine, by the way?
I've seen the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have a magazine that goes out all over South Florida, but in the issue that was January, we had a fantastic doctor who wrote a book called Smarter Next Year. And what he said in his book about many things was exercise is the key to longevity. If you have high blood pressure, exercise. If you have this, exercise. He loves it, and I have him on my radio show. And his name is Dr. It's David Bardsley. Anyway, he is so smart, and he is he really, when I was thinking about your interview, that he would love this. I mean, I'm going to have to get that book and send it to him, because everything that you're telling me, and I haven't read your book yet. I just got this, and I do expect to get that and do it. But he just goes crazy with exercise. That's what he tells everybody. Exercise and, eat fresh fruit and eat all that, but exercise.
Absolutely. It really is the fountain of youth.
People, it's amazing, too. There are a lot of people who walk, as you were saying, but they run. We have so many runners. Now, I've worried about that. Don't runners usually wind up with knees and hip problems?
They can. I mean, the natural cycle of running, based on each individual, can be very, very detrimental to different parts of the body. So the hips, the knees, the cartilage, ligaments, things like that. So one of the things that we actually would recommend for some of those people would be doing a little bit more of a interval-based program where the intensity goes up, and it actually changes the running mechanics as they change speed from a slower jogging into a more running, higher intensity run, and it's actually less impact on the joints because it changes our gait pattern and how we run.
Huh. I see. So there's a real science to that.
There is, absolutely. And then the nice thing about that, too, is that usually somebody doesn't have to run as long because they're achieving higher heart rates while they're doing their intervals.
I
see. It cuts back on their actual time, the time spent in exercise.
Mm-hmm. And so people who now have had problems maybe with their heart but not quite had an attack, do you think that the exercise, if they start it now, could keep them from having a heart attack?
That's a great question, Anita. I think it may or may not, but what I would say is that generally speaking, people that have stronger, more efficient hearts, when they do suffer something, usually have better outcomes during recovery. So that's kind of my buy-in on that, where, okay, if my heart's stronger and more efficient at this point in time and something does happen, well, my chances of recovery is much greater.
Excellent. Well, that's very positive. I'm glad you said that. So I'm talking now to Keith Burns, who actually is co-author of, and I just want to do this, co-author of Exercises for Cardiac Recovery, and I want to mention your colleagues, William Smith, well, that's easy, and then Christopher Volgrath. Volgraph, Volgraph, Volgraph. Okay, I have that now. Okay, so between Chris and you, and Bill, I guess we call her Will,
Yep.
you have something really terrific. And now, are you working on another book or something else like this?
We are. We're actually scheduled to have a phone call next week.
That's
so
interesting.
we each have a couple different ideas that we're going to try to bounce back and forth off each other and see which one has the most legs for us to run with.
Right, because I was thinking, sounds crazy. I'm sure you know about TED Talks. Have you ever done one?
Yeah, I've never done one, no, but I do.
I think you should. I
do watch them.
Oh, yeah, I think that people would love this. And, of course, you'd probably have to maybe... Do you do demonstrations of some of the things you talk about?
We do sometimes, absolutely, yeah.
I think the posture book would be perfect.
The posture book would be perfect, actually.
So, well, I have a lot of ideas, too. I think I'd like to talk to you again because you're really the market that we serve. Like, we serve from 60 to 80, very, even 50 in a sense here in South Florida. But when you see our magazine, I'd like to, I'm going to send you. In fact, our magazine just came out the February, the one for the heart, the Valentine month, right?
Yeah, Heart Month.
Heart Month, exactly.
February's Heart Month.
That's right. And so having this, the recovery, see, what I love is the word cardiac recovery. So people all want to recover. They don't want to slip back. And that's why I think this could be such a successful book.
Thank you. It was a great project to work on. We were all super excited. We put in a lot of hours with it, but it definitely, it's a book that needed to be written.
And as an author myself, I wrote a book called Live to be 100 Plus, among some others. But I remember when my husband and I writing it, okay, you take those chapters and I'm going to take these chapters, right?
That's right.
You have to kind of decide. Having three people write the book, how large a book is it?
It's the books are written where they're really easy reads.
100 pages.
So about 100, 120, yeah.
Good. That's a good size. No, that's true. People don't want to have if you get these 200, 300, 400 page books, forget it. They're not, unless it's all about sex or something like that. They're not gonna hold on to it. They want to have something fast. And in fact, the book I just told you about, this Smarter Next Year, is small. It's like half the size of a book, and it's beautifully illustrated. It's really something you ought to get online, and when we get finished, Smarter Next Year. And it's by, Dr. David Bardsley, and he was on the cover of our
that's great.
Our January issue. So, but anyway, I'm not finished yet because I have a lot of other things. Remember, you can buy this book on Amazon.com. You can also buy their other book. Just put their names in, and you can buy the other book. Might as well plug that one too. On posture. What is the first? What's the whole title for your book?
It's called Exercises for Perfect Posture.
Oh, that's so good. Exercise for perfect posture. Not for good posture, but perfect posture.
Perfect, absolutely.
That's what I think we all need that, because I know when I'm walking sometimes my friend will say, why don't you stand up more? Oh, am I not standing up? Because I do sit at a computer. In fact, I'm here at the radio station, and I usually stand. And I guess I've had quite a few interviews today, so I started sitting. But I could see what happens when I'm sitting. I'm not sitting straight up. I'm leaning into the mic.
Absolutely. Very common.
And so, how about, are you all married?
We are, actually, all three of us are married. All three of us each have 3 children.
Oh.
About within the same age ranges.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah. So we've yet to get them all together, though.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to tell you about is, as I was doing this, I started about 30 years ago with this whole idea of what I wanted to do with communications and with the older population. I loved the word longevity, and people were not using that. Longevity was my favorite word, and I named things longevity this, longevity that. So you said that Princeton has a longevity center?
That's correct. It's called the Princeton Longevity Center. It's in Princeton, New Jersey, obviously, and it's a world-class facility. It's right up there with the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, as far as the type of testing that's done, and then the exercise prescription that comes out of that.
Very, very smart. And I'm thinking now as we're talking, maybe on my magazine, I ought to have one page that's called the longevity page.
Absolutely. That'd be a great spot.
Wouldn't it? You'll have to come and you all have to write for something on there. You could have food. You could have all sorts of things. Oh, I love it. I always get great ideas from some of our, our experts here. So this is really fun. Well, I just was looking at the brochure the sheet that I have, and where you say, and this is really the best thing, the minimizing risk for maximum results. This is the one problem, and I've been in my condo's exercise room, and I see people doing things, and I'm saying, I don't know if they should be doing that. I don't know if anyone told them to it or not to do it, but I often hear people say, oh, I have this shoulder. Oh, I have this problem. I've exercised too much. Don't you think they should get an exercise coach like you probably are and get it done right?
Absolutely. I think, everyone should, look into hiring, a personal trainer at some point, even if it's just for a few sessions to see what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong,
right.
And just to get a better idea of what they should be doing. So we often do things that we've always done in the past,
right?
And the science of exercise has really caught up within the last 15 to 20 years, and things we did 20 years ago we're not doing now.
Oh,
so it makes a lot of sense to have someone coach you a little bit.
Okay,
and again,
Keith.
even if it's only for a few sessions.
Keith, I'm so happy to have talked to you, and I'm going to get back to you to see what else we can do because I love what the three of you are doing, and I've gotten so many ideas already. So thanks a lot, and co-author of Exercises for Cardiac Recovery. Thank you again.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right. Bye, Keith.
Bye-bye now.